Okay.
You heard that, right?
Yes.
All right. Well, welcome everybody to the Pasco County College and Career Fair. We are really pleased that you have decided to join us for this session on applying to post-secondary schools out of the country. We have with us today Michelle, and I always call you Michelle Basu, but is that not how it's pronounced?
It's Basu, like ba, like
Basu.
lamb, and then Sue.
Okay, Basu, got you. I should know that by now.
It's okay.
And Michelle comes to us with lots of experience, and she will be your host and presenting tonight. I did want to tell you that we are recording the session, and the recording and the PowerPoint will be available on the College and Career site after tonight. And if you have questions as we're going through, go ahead and drop them in the chat, and we'll address them and make sure that everybody gets your questions answered before we leave. So Michelle, I turn it over to you.
Okay, perfect. Share my screen. Should it? Okay. Okay, so I can, there we go. Okay, hello everybody. My name is Michelle Basu. I'm a school counselor here in Pasco County. My email is up here. I'm more than happy to answer any questions after the fact. I'm a year-round school counselor. I've been doing this for many years. So here's a little bit about me. I've been a school counselor for a total, I'm finishing my 26th year, and I've done 18 years in Pasco County. And I do believe 18, 19, 20 years have been at the high school level. So a little more about me, how I got involved in university applications overseas in that process is because 11 years ago, my family and I moved to Tunis in Tunisia in Africa. We lived there for 4 years. It was fabulous, just living on the Mediterranean. And then we moved to Ukraine in Kyiv, and we lived there for 4 years. So right after when COVID was ending, I believe 3 years ago is when we returned to Pasco County. And right now I'm currently working at Hudson Academy as a middle school counselor. But quite frankly, I still, I'm in contact with many of the students who I met in Ukraine, particularly because that was the most recent time, and helping them with university questions there. So I wanted to start with my belief system for applications. And this goes with applying to US schools as well as applying to schools overseas. I just like to make 1 month dedicated to the application cycle. I'm a firm believer that the junior year, the 11th grade year, students really need to set aside time. I always told people 1 hour every week and research universities, make it a habit. Just kind of put that in your schedule. Maybe it's Wednesday night from 6 to 7 or 5 to 6. You're going to do some type of research for your university. That way, come August of your senior year, you know which schools you're applying to, and you know exactly what you need to do. And with some schools we'll talk about later, there are things that you have to do the second semester of your junior year. But that junior year is very important. So the senior year for overseas, most of the applications open on October 15th. Whatever day of the week that is, it's October 15th. You cannot apply any sooner. And I have found over the years that if you finish by November 15th or Thanksgiving break, whenever that happens to fall, you have set yourself up really well and nicely to get some really great acceptance letters. By working overseas, you get to learn, you get to meet a lot of the college entrance advisors. And they would always say that the students who procrastinated, who applied after Thanksgiving breaks, especially come January, they do have a more difficult time getting acceptances because they do see those students as having procrastinated in their application cycle. Some of my other beliefs are for the early decisions for US schools. I say this doesn't really apply to overseas, so I apologize for this, but I just wanted to put this out there because I'm not sure if anyone else will say it. But for early decisions, I really think students should only apply to the schools they live, breathe, love. They just want to be Harvard, or they really just want to be Columbia. And they shouldn't just apply to an Ivy League school or to one of those name brand schools just because. If they really don't want to go there, they really should just apply in the regular cycle. They need to do the early for those schools that they've been dreaming about attending since they were like 2 or 3. The other thing, especially for US schools, though, is that you have to know your legacy and development history, and you have to play that card. You have to let the school know. Legacy means how many, if your mom, dad, your grandmother, grandfather, great-great-grandfather, not necessarily sisters, aunts and uncles, it's the vertical heritage line there for your legacy. That does matter, especially if that person who went there was a great student. And then development history means money. How much financial money has been contributed to that university? Those things really do matter for US schools. The last thing that I found, more so when I was working overseas, is that students don't want to be forthcoming about their financial need. I think that's a mistake. I think paying for university is a very it's a big deal, right? It can, if you don't have enough money, it can really hinder your development through university. So you need to let the school know that you're in need for financial assistance and you need to apply for scholarships. Where's that? Okay. And my other bit of advice I always told students is focus, right? So your junior year, you're researching universities, you're making your short list, right? 10 or less schools. And then the first part of your senior year, you're applying to the schools before Thanksgiving break. And then whatever day of the week, say that you finish your applications that very next Monday, take the weekend off. Then you need to start applying for scholarships and financial aid. And sometimes housing, and we'll talk about that soon. Why should you consider I'm gonna move this thing again. Attending university overseas. When we were living overseas for those 8 years, there were moments that we missed Florida, we missed our family here, we missed our home, right? However, now that we've been back here for 3 years, we value our time overseas tremendously because we learned so much just living in the different countries about different cultures. And overseas, when you live across the world, you learn that there are so many different people from around the world living in one area, and it just really opens up your mind to different ways of life and different philosophies and ways of being. So attending a university overseas is going to expand their world beyond measure that you can comprehend right now, beyond the classroom. Number 2, the cost is actually quite lower than a US school. When I go over the money, you probably will be quite shocked at how less expensive, right? Did I say that correctly? Than a US school universities overseas are. Most of the time you can get your BA degree, bachelor's degree in 3 years without any previous credits. So that's very important too. So the cost is not only cheaper per year, but it takes less years. You can do it in 3 years. In the United States, 4 years is pretty standard unless you're getting those extra classes done. And this is probably a good time for me to stop and say dual enrollment. It's a great program here for Florida, particularly, and across the United States. But if you're taking dual enrollment classes, it's not going to serve you when you apply overseas, because there's no direct link connection from the high schools to the universities overseas. The schools will be looking more towards IB, Cambridge, and AP classes and honors. Going overseas will make you interconnected. You will have vast networking opportunities. Many people who live overseas, they travel a lot. So you will start building connections across the world in areas that you had never known existed before. If you don't speak a world language, by going overseas, you will quickly learn the different languages of the world. The universities that I'm talking about tonight are English, they are English language universities. So everything is taught in English, the reading, the writing, everything. So you don't need to worry about your son or daughter going overseas to these universities and not knowing the language. However, if they go to, say, Spain, right, they can pick the English speaking university, but then when they're on the street and they're socializing with people in their community, they can master their Spanish. And I do believe that the environment overseas, at least where we lived and like the different areas, we visited London, we visited the Netherlands. I have not visited Canada. I'm going to talk about that tonight, but they are safe environments. I don't think you're going to have to worry about your son or daughter being in any type of danger. They take safety very seriously. I have to go over here, sorry. Okay, so which countries will we discuss tonight? I'm going to talk about Canada, the Netherlands, United Kingdom, Spain, and then you can email me any questions about Australia, Germany, and South Korea, because those are other countries I have a lot of familiarity with having students apply there. You may have heard that Germany, you can attend school there for less than $1,000 a year. That is true, but they have very strict requirements. And I think only one or two of the students I ever worked with actually were able to get in that way. It does exist, but it's pretty tough. Okay, so Canada. So like I said, the application opens October 15th, not October 14th. It's all closed. The one thing I always tell students and parents, if you're going to apply to Canadian schools, the websites of the schools, people laugh when I say this, but they're just cumbersome. They're not easy flow. There's a lot of clicks just to get to one spot. So when you start looking through the Canadian websites for their universities, don't get frustrated. Just stay with it. And once you kind of learn the rhythm of how their websites work, then it gets easier to navigate. Applying to a Canadian school is very quick and easy. There's no personal statement required, so your son or daughter will actually not have to write an essay, and they will not have to ask a teacher for a letter of recommendation. They simply go by the transcript. Many people think you have to be a full IB student. That's not the case. You can be a standard American high school student. They will require an SAT score. And that's, I think it's coming back now in the United States, the SAT score, from what I'm hearing on the radio and whatnot, because I know they kind of went away a little bit from the SAT and ACT, but now it's coming back. So overseas, do expect to have to take the SAT. ACT is not as well known overseas. They do prefer the College Board SAT test over the ACT. I will say that. So if you're thinking of applying overseas, you may want to make sure you take the SAT and then take again if necessary. The price for Canadian university college tuition is as low as $6,000 a year, not semester, for a full year, to $45,000 for a full year. So that is less expensive than America. And if you have Canadian citizenship, it will be as low as $9,000. So I put a picture here of the more well-known universities in Canada. Most students that I worked with in the middle here, I don't think you can see my cursor, gosh, is Ontario. And it kind of actually looks like a little bit like Australia. So it's kind of in the middle at the bottom here, but like University of Waterloo, Western, McMaster, Toronto, all those universities are in Ontario. And I mention that because right here, the universities in Ontario have their own application link, their own system. And overseas, they normally call a program or a degree a course. So I might say that interchangeably throughout tonight. So the course, like for me, I studied psychology as an undergraduate. That would be my course, psychology. As a graduate, I was doing counselor education. That would be my course for my master's program. So in the Ontario system, you can apply to 3 courses at any one school. So they limit. So if you're going to apply to University of Toronto, you can apply there, but for only 3 different courses or programs. And then there are other links. All these are hot links. So when you get this PowerPoint, you can click on here and you can go directly to that school and then their website and their application, sorry. What's really nice about Canada, if you're not keeping up with the Canadian system, is the University of Ottawa and maybe some other universities, but this was a popular one, would give a partial exemption for tuition because they really want to preserve their French language. So if your son or daughter speaks French or is learning it, they can take half of their classes in French, half in English. And then at the time when I was actively being a school counselor 3 years ago overseas, it was about 30% off of tuition fees, which is it's a nice decrease. So say your son or daughter is taking 4 courses, 4 classes in a semester, 2 would need to be taken in French, 2 in English, and they would get a reduction in their tuition. So that's really nice. I think, yeah. And then here's a picture of McGill. I wanted to show how pretty Canada is. Okay, so now the Netherlands. I must say that I really, really like the Netherlands. I really like their university system. I like their approach. It's just a great place, but great country. If you've never visited, I hope you do one day. What you hear about them having all the bicycles is very true. I'll show a picture of that too soon. Basically, the most important point to know about the Netherlands is they have 2 different types of universities. They have a research type of university and they have an applied science. Sorry, I need to take a sip. So research universities are more like American-based universities. They're theory-based, studying, books, reading, memorizing all the knowledge. However, they're only 3 years long. But if your son or daughter are more of a hands-on type person and they want to start applying their knowledge very quickly while they're going through university experience, they have the applied sciences schools. Those schools are 4 years long because they call it a sandwich. They sandwich in 1 year work experience for that program. What's really nice is the professors I spoke with and the students would say that 1 year working, and it's usually in a government directed job, something that they can work on for the country, some dams, things like that with water, because of course they're having they have water issues over in the Netherlands. So they put their college students to work, and then after they graduate, a lot of them do get job offers in that field. So that's a really nice perk for the Netherlands. The other thing to know about the Netherlands is their liberal arts colleges, they call them university colleges. In the United States, we have, a university, and then we have colleges on the university campus for the different programs. In the Netherlands, their liberal arts are called university colleges. And those are the schools that will be just like the liberal arts programs of the US, where there are general education requirements. Otherwise, most of the schools overseas are 3 years long, and the reason why they're 3 years long is because they do away with the general education requirements. Your son or daughter has to pick a course, and they go in and they start to focus on that course from the beginning. So that's another plus about going to school overseas. If your son or daughter, they do not want to do all the general education requirements. Okay. Here are the bikes. I actually visited Groningen. I always say it wrong. That's not how you pronounce it. Groningen University. And they really have all these bikes there. It's crazy. And they don't get stolen. So that's fascinating. But anyways, for the Netherlands, if you're a full IB student, that's great. They'll accept you, or you have to have 3 AP classes with scores of 4 or higher. 4s are it's a high score, so that's pretty tough. And a GPA above a 3.0. If you have a GPA lower than a 3.0, there's no point in applying. They're very black and white about their requirements. If you don't have the 3 AP classes, you may have to take some exams, but they're a little strict about that as well. In the Netherlands, they limit how many programs or courses students can apply to. They can only apply to 4. So in the whole country, you can only apply to 4 courses. It can be at the same university, or the courses can be at different universities in the country. And they have numerous fixes programs. What that means, basically, if you think about it, think of a classroom that seats 100 students, right, for that university. So that's all they're going to accept. And if you apply early, right, so before the November 15th, before the Thanksgiving deadline, if you meet the requirement that's listed above, full IB, 3 AP with 4 or higher and a GPA above a 3.0, you will get into that program, right? If someone else applies 2 weeks later with better scores than you, but they've already offered you that space, you don't have to worry. They're not going to pull your acceptance. Okay, so it's first come, first serve. That's why applying early really does matter. So when I was overseas, that's one thing I did. That 1 month, October 15th to November 15th, that was our application season, and I made sure all the students were done before Thanksgiving break. The other thing about the Netherlands is students can only apply to 2 of like medicine, veterinary, business, and dentistry. Those are the programs that have a fixed set number of students who can be in that program. So you can only apply to 2. And then within that, only 1 can be medicine, veterinary, or dentist. So they have some strict regulations about that, which is actually nice because not everyone can be a doctor. You know, let's be honest. Everyone needs to expand their knowledge and, you know, have a career that's best for them. So in the Netherlands, the IB system has changed with their math. So I have to apologize. I'm not overseas right now. I'm not an active high school counselor with students applying over there. Because I know the AA has changed with the AI. And at the time that I left, they were not very favorable of the applications and interpretations IB math classes. However, after that year, they were learning that the AI math at the higher level was a very rigorous course. So I'm pretty sure now they are accepting that class. But as you can see in my second little bullet paragraph here, math placement tests are commonplace. And I would have students who did not score a 4 or higher in math. They would take the math placement test and they would pass and they would be fine and they would get into their university. So do not apply to the Netherlands because your son or daughter does not have a 4 in a math class. They can take that test, they can pass it, and they can move forward. And again, for the whole year for the Netherlands, it's 10,000 US dollars. So it's very economical. And then if you have EU citizenship, it's less than $3,000. So when you apply to the Netherlands, here's a direct link. They have their own system of applying. It's called StudyLink. It's not study, it's Studi. And then you have to research courses down here at this link because you have to type in which courses are taught in English. You don't want to take a course in Dutch. That would be challenging. When you go to the Netherlands, everyone is bilingual. So every Dutch person also speaks fluent English, so you don't have to worry about that. But they do have courses taught in Dutch, so you have to make sure you're taking them in English. The StudyLink is also their countrywide like university system. So they keep all of your like transcripts and information there, government, like they just keep it in their little stockpile, which is really nice because then when you graduate and leave, you can quickly go there and get all your information, not have to worry about keeping track of transcripts and whatnot. So with the Netherlands, I always told students, because the housing is hard to come by, it's very, they don't have a lot of space. A lot of schools do not have dormitories. So after they apply, I would tell them take the weekend off. And then that next Monday, when you come back to school, you need to start looking for on-campus housing or off-campus housing in apartments. And you have to do that right away because the housing goes very quickly. Okay, the United Kingdom. Again, a lot of people think you have to have a full IB diploma to go to London, but you do not. You can have regular American high school diploma. However, to get a firm offer for acceptance, you need to take the SAT or the ACT. But again, the SAT is a little bit more well known. For the UK, you can only apply to 5 courses. They put a max limit there as well. And remember, courses means the actual program that you're wanting to study. So if you only want to study psychology, then you would pick, 5 schools with, different psychology programs. However, if you want to just go to one university and you can't really decide between courses, you could apply to 3 courses at one school, then 2 at a different one. So it's 5 courses total. So the deadline to apply to dentistry, medicine, veterinary is October 15th. So some students have to send their application in even before October 15th, okay? And the other thing to know is that Cambridge and Oxford, you can only apply to one of them. So that makes, getting acceptance to those schools and thinking of people who've attended there, it's even more, special, rigorous, because they can only apply to one of them. It's not like the United States where you can apply to all the Ivy Leagues and then you can get your options and pick which one you're going to get into, which one you're going to attend. For the UK, you have to pick Cambridge or Oxford up front. And then to apply to those schools, there are interviews and there are tests that you have to do before even October 15th, and many times in the second semester of your junior year. So if your son or daughter is thinking of Oxford or Cambridge, there's research that has to be done before their senior year. And if they miss any of the deadlines, then that's it. They've missed it and they cannot apply there. They can wait and apply again a year after their senior year of high school. The application fee is 28 pounds, which is about 32 US dollars. So the application fee is very low for the UK, like really low, because most of the schools in the United States cost about $100, if not more, to apply to a university. Just applying can be quite costly for American schools. I just did that a year ago with my son. Anyway, so the application here, this part does match a little bit more of the United States. They do require a personal statement. However, it's very limited when you get into the application, and I have the link right here, UCAS. They have a rectangular box and the computer will stop. You can only have 4,000 characters. So that does include spaces and dots and everything and punctuation and 47 lines. So what they're wanting is a really well-rounded, crafted letter that's focused. I always would tell my students, think of a 97-year-old professor who just will not retire, who smokes a pipe and sits in a very small little office with books to the floor and ceiling and is a professor of economics. Why do you live and breathe economics just like he does? They do not want any fluff about you. They do not want to know that you've been a swimmer since you were 2. They do not want to know that you know how to bake, a 5-layer chocolate cake, or any of the volunteer work you've done, unless the volunteer work is very specific to the program or course that you're going to study at that university. What they do want to know is how you're going to contribute to the future, how you're going to contribute to their university. So you have to do research as to what research and program and maybe professor that you want to work with at a UK school. You need to put that in your personal statement. That's what they want to know. The reference, so it's the same thing. You get that big rectangular box. Many students think that they can only have one teacher write them a letter of reference. That's not necessarily true. What the school counselor does, so whoever you're working with, I would go in and ask for 3 letters of recommendation for the student. Of course, this is all confidential, and I would work with the teachers and we would craft out and kind of take out a little blurb from each teacher and put it into the reference. So you could have a nice little, 3 letters of recommendation in there for your son or daughter. For the application, they do take IB predicted grades, or like I said, the SAT score. What's really nice about applying with an SAT score, because many students will have taken that maybe in August, September, or even the second semester of their junior year, is that is actually a final score. So when they apply, you will get a firm offer as opposed to a conditional offer. So firm offer means, yes, we're accepting you into Cambridge. You've given us what we need, and there are no questions asked. You're in. If you're given a conditional offer, what that means is you need to get, say, a 3 in English Lit, you need to get a 4 in French, you need to get they'll tell your IB scores or the grades that you have to earn at the end of the year in order to get into that university. So they'll give a conditional offer. Well, let's go ahead here. So I wanted to say, with applying to a UK school, you can hear back about your conditional or firm offer within a week after your application if you've applied before the Thanksgiving break. If you wait until December to apply or anytime later, you could be waiting 1, 2, 3 months upwards to May to find out if you got into any school. So it does benefit to apply early, because it is more of a first come, first serve. You meet the requirement, they're going to accept you. Here's a picture of the University College London, and here are university links. These were some popular university destinations of students when I was working overseas. All right, I need to take a sip. The Russell Group over in the United Kingdom is sort of like their Ivy League, their group of Ivy League colleges. If that's important to your son or daughter, you can click on this link and it will take you to their list of 24 schools. And then you could do some research as to which school that they want to apply to, because they're limited to only 5 courses. And then, of course, there are links with the business and the public sector if they attend those schools. And those schools do have a lot of research-based history with that school. The tuition for the United Kingdom is $12,000 to up to $50,000. So it's still less expensive than a US school, but when you get to the $48,000 range, it can be a little bit comparable. Okay. Guess I probably should slow down talking. I'm looking at the time and I was a little worried I wasn't going to make it, but now we have 9 minutes and I'm coming to the end to Spain. This is why my throat's a little sore. Sorry about that. Okay, so Spain. If you haven't been to Spain, definitely take a trip over to Barcelona or Madrid. Those are my favorite places. The sun just shines there what seems like every single day, and it's just a great place to visit, maybe even live, who knows. But so to attend a school in Spain, what's really nice about Spain is they do have satellite schools of US universities over in Spain. So like New York University, Suffolk University, they have those exact schools, but like just a little mini satellite version over in Spain. So that's really nice. And you're going to get the same degree and that's like the same diploma. It'll just kind of say like in Spain. So it's a nice bonus. And you'll have that connection to the US school as you had gone to Spain. So you just have to have 30 points for your IB, and that's very doable. Or you have to take some AP courses, and the number of the AP courses it just varies, depending on what course you're applying to and what university. They're a lot less stringent on their requirements. And a 3.0 GPA. So for Spain, I would say if you really wanted to go there and maybe you had a 2.998, I would say go ahead and give it a shot and apply, as opposed to the Netherlands, where I would advise the student, no, I really don't waste your time. They're not going to consider you. So for Spain, I would say go ahead and give it a shot. And they are more like the United States, and they're going to do a holistic review. They're going to want a personal statement. I do have to say that the students who apply to universities in Spain, I would get calls from the admissions advisor asking me questions about the student all the time. So your son or daughter really need to get to know their high school counselor, because behind the scenes, we are working with the college admissions officers and we are giving them information about your sons and daughters. We are their advocate. But of course, if there are any issues of, what am I trying to say? Honesty, we do have some things we do have to divulge to the university, but any other than we are always the advocate of your son or daughter. So definitely get to know your high school counselor. So if you, like I said, so if your AP scores are not really high or your GPA is not like a 3.0, they may have you take a placement test, and that's not a very big deal. And you can see here that the tuition is really, really very inexpensive, up to maybe $2,000 for to attend a university in Spain. So very, very doable. What's interesting in Spain is many students will live like in a homestay, they call it. Consider that sort of like an Airbnb. There are some dormitories, but it's more often than not that students are, like renting out a room in someone's house or an apartment. And here are, I think it's IE University, yeah. IE and EU universities were popular destinations, especially for business. A lot of students like these universities in Spain. Just want to show some pictures there. You can see how the campus is really nice and pretty. Okay, so I have some links here to universities in Spain. Very nice. Definitely check out these out. Okay. I apologize for speaking too fast. So this is we're getting near the end of my presentation. So how to stand out when you're applying to universities overseas. Show that you're learning the world language, of the country that you're going to attend. You don't need to learn Dutch if you're going to the Netherlands, because most people over there, they do speak probably 4 languages anyways, French, and probably some Spanish as well, German too. But show the university that you're learning a language, and you can learn on Duolingo and just practice. And once you get over there, you will start to learn the language of that country, especially like if you're in Spain or something where another language is spoken on the street. My one piece of advice that I've always said since, counseling 26 years ago is I really do. I think the one subject area that can really help you expand your options when you get to university are the math classes. I really think it does benefit students to really pay attention in math and try to take as many advanced math classes as possible, because then when they're applying to universities, they have more open doors for options for them. If your son or daughter really struggle in math, then that's, a different issue, but I think they should really do their best and try to excel in math, because that is the one subject that could limit them in their career opportunities in the future. So that's where I would pay a lot of attention to. In Hudson, I live in Hudson, in Pasco County. Pay attention to the volunteer experiences. At Hudson Academy, we have volunteer work that's done, and we take a cultural approach to it. So try to find some volunteer experiences where you're working with different people of different that are different from you in the community, and how you can expand on that in your college application. The last thing I want to say is be yourself. I'm a mom. I have 4 children. I still have one here at home, but each time I have to say, helping them through their application, not really, I shouldn't say the word helping, but like listening to their essays. It was really hard for my husband sometimes not to want to edit and give a lot of advice, because here I am, I'm the high school counselor. I would basically forbid him to do that, because you want your son or daughter's voice to come through in their essay. They're not looking, the college admissions officer, they're not looking for perfection. They know the high school students are 16, 17, 18-year-olds. They know they're not professional writers. They're not writing novels. They know the grammar and maybe the structure is not going to be the best. You want that university admissions officer to be able to close their eyes and visualize your son or daughter and get a sense of who they are, just like how you're reading a book, like how you read Harry Potter or Lord of the Rings or whatnot, and you get that visual of, Hermione, Hagrid and whatnot. You want them to see your son or daughter shining in their light. You want them to see their voice and hear it. One of my students applied to Harvard, got in, and his essay was about his red curly hair and how when he was little, the drama teacher wanted him to play Annie because of his red curly hair, and how he hated that. He did not want that part. His mom despised his essay. She was like, "This is Harvard. You cannot send an essay. your personal statement about your red hair. Well, he got in and I read that essay and I thought it was one of the best. I still remember it, obviously, to this day. It was the best essay I've read because he just spoke from his heart. And obviously Harvard saw that and knew that he'd be a great person to have on campus. So as a parent, of course, give spelling advice and whatnot, things like that. But just make sure you're not over editing their college application process. Let them be themselves, let them shine through. That's what the colleges are looking for, is how your son or daughter is going to make their university better. And they also want to make sure it's a good match, because sometimes your son or daughter might think they need to go to this school, where in actuality, there are other schools that are better matches for them. So the admissions officers are also looking at that as well. Where's the best match? Okay, so like I said, so after you apply to the school, take a weekend off and then start applying for financial aid and scholarships. Some students I worked with over the years, they don't like to acknowledge that. But my best piece of advice is to start early and apply for all the money that you can get. One of my a really great career specialists would tell the students, so if you're applying to the scholarship and it's $1,000 versus the $10,000 one, yes, that's a big difference. But think about the time that you're putting into the application. So maybe the $1,000 financial aid scholarship will only take you an hour to complete, right? Well, that's $1,000 you made in that 1 hour if you get that scholarship. So I always tell students to think of it that way. How much money are you getting per hour that you're applying to the scholarship? And that makes a difference because it's actual income money. And here's my my name. Like I said, right now I'm working at Hudson Academy. I'm more than happy to help anyone who has questions about applying to universities overseas. Like I said, I do have knowledge and experience with helping students get into schools in Germany, in Australia, and South Korea. That can be a little bit challenging to apply over there, but they have some really great programs, and the cost of those schools over in those 3 countries, very, very low. So my email address is up here. If you think of any questions after the fact, have no fear, just send me an email. I'll be more than happy to answer any question. Okay, that's all I have. Are there any questions? Right? What did I do? Oh, here we go. Are there any questions, Lynn, or are we good?
No, we're good. We had quite a crowd and it looks like some of them jumped off maybe to get to some other presentations. I'm not sure.
Right.
Judith is the only one left with us, but
Okay.
Judith, if you don't have any questions, then you can look for this presentation, the PowerPoint and the recording on the website, probably within the next 24 to 48 hours.
I'm good. Thanks for the time.
Thank
Thank
you.
you so much. Thank you. Have a great night.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye.
So I'm going to stop the recording.